Hello. It's known that the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Taf Tzadik Gimel writes that the minhag, the custom in Klal Yisrael, is not to take haircuts from Pesach until Lag BaOmer. According to Sfaradim, Lamed Daled, early in the morning, one can take a haircut. According to Ashkenazim, the Rama brings down that the minhag is to keep up to Lag BaOmer in the morning. That is all true, with some exceptions. For example, this year that Iyar, Rosh Chodesh Iyar, falls exactly on Erev Shabbat, and then the second day is on Shabbat, it's a 2 days Rosh Chodesh, there are those that permit one to take haircut because it's a Tosefet Simcha, it's added Simcha, and therefore one may take a haircut on that day on Friday. This is how the Mishnah Berurah writes in that Siman. He says that whenever it falls on Rosh Chodesh, אף לנוהגים איסור גם את ראש חודש אייר, מכל מקום ימחל ראש חודש בשבת, כיוון שיש כאן תוספת שמחה, שבת וראש חודש, יש להתיר להסתפר בערב שבת מפני כבוד השבת. Since Rosh Chodesh falls on Shabbat, one is permitted to take a haircut before Shabbat on Erev Shabbat. So you have over here two things, Rosh Chodesh Iyar and Shabbat. Now, some of the poskim, Sfaradim, hold that one should take the entire Sfirat Omer up to Lamed Daled BaOmer, as we said, according to the Shulchan Aruch, and according to the Arizal, up to before Shavuot. According to Kabbalah, the Kabbalah is machmir not to take a haircut at all up to before Shavuot. So therefore, there's no leniency. That's how some of the Sfaradi poskim write. You could see that in Yalkut Yosef, for example, who brings down the one should be machmir. But we need to know that this machloket, whether one should take a haircut on Rosh Chodesh Iyar that falls on Shabbat, before Shabbat, obviously on Erev Shabbat, or not, is concerning haircuts. But shaving is something already totally different, as we'll see soon. First of all, let's just mention the Radbaz. The Radbaz held that every Rosh Chodesh Iyar one may take a haircut. No question, he argues with that with the Bet Yosef. He even writes that he himself took a haircut on Erev Rosh Chodesh Iyar, on Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Why? Because he says that this is a minhag, and therefore any other minhag would push over that minhag. He says also that there's a lot of tzar not to take a haircut for that long, and this is not a simple posek. The Radbaz was one of the biggest poskim that Am Yisrael had. He writes the following words: Ana avidna uvda benafshai, ve'ani mistaper kol chodesh Nisan v'Rosh Chodesh Iyar. He says that he was taking haircuts on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and he writes, moreover, which is also quoted in many other poskim, v'chen nagu rov ha'olam. Most of the people didn't keep that, he says. Atam, כיוון שהם אסורים בהספד ותענית, since Rosh Chodesh you're not allowed to be maspid, you're not allowed to mourn, and you're not allowed to fast, therefore, you see, you're also not allowed to do any other type of mourning, just like keeping your hair not clean, not with a haircut, looks good. Therefore, he says that any minhag would push over this thing. Not only that, he says this tsar gadol begidul hase'ar lemי שרגיל להסתפר, and therefore one may take a haircut. This Radbaz is clearly arguing, and the Bet Yosef, as he himself says, since the Bet Yosef says that one cannot shave until Lamed Daled BaOmer. But this is all true, as we explained, concerning haircuts. But when we're dealing with shaving, the poskim write that shaving was not included in the minhag of not taking haircuts. Although today's last generation's poskim, many of them wrote that we should not cut any hair from the body, any part of the body one may not shave. This is how the Or Letzion writes in Chelek Gimel. This is how also the Mishpatei Uziel brings down also the Askilavdi, and they want to compare taking haircuts to everything else that just like you're not allowed to take a haircut, you're not allowed to shave, you're not allowed to cut any hair from your parts of the body. But many poskim, as I mentioned, argue on this idea, and they say no, there's no comparison between the two. And there are a few proofs to that. First of all, the Machatzit Shekel and the Livush Esrad, they all say such an idea that there's a difference between cutting the hair and shaving the beard, which was not something that was restricted in the minhag. And moreover, there are Sfarim that mention this more clearly. The Chida, for example, he says that the haircut was not, the shaving was not part of the minhag, and therefore it is permitted, and only a Chides Gula, only some people kept that in every city, but it was just very, very selected people that were noheg in a very righteous way, but generally, the general crowd did not keep that. This is also how it's brought down in the Sefer of Moshe Malka. Is one of the head rabbis of Petach Tikva from the previous generations. He writes a whole teshuvah. He proves that very clearly. The Shulchan Aruch writes in Ilchot Avelut and Ilchot Tisha B'Av, which is strict Avelut, just like a person lo alenu is Avel, is mourning one of his relatives. It says over there in the Shulchan Aruch that one should not cut his hair. He should not do, also not cut his beard, and not cut any hair from any part of the body. But when we come to this minhag over here in Siman Taf Tzadik Gimel, minhagim of Sfirat Omer, it just says not to cut the hair. Noagim shelo listaper. That's it. He doesn't mention any other parts of the body. So therefore, those poskim that want to compare and say, we see from Avelut that over there you're not allowed to cut any part of the body, any hair from any part of the body, it should be applied to here as well. He argues that it's not so because over there it's much more strict. And the Shulchan Aruch should have mentioned in the less strict halacha that the minhag is not to cut any part of the body. How would you know from something that is much more strict? Therefore, you see that there was no such minhag ever to not shave. Shaving was not under this restrictions. Okay, so it becomes a minhag amakom, whichever place the noheg not to do something, that's what one should do. But it's interesting also, Chacham Ovadia, when he brings this thing, he says the same idea, makom tzorech gadol. This is in Ilchot Sfirat Omer. He says, yesh lakel gam bekol erev Shabbat. He's lenient even for a person that really needs to shave even on erev Shabbat. And he says those exact words as we mentioned before, כי לא דיברו הפוסקים בגילוח הזקן כלל בזמנם. The poskim never mentioned anything, they didn't speak about it, they didn't restrict shaving, not shaving, but rather only haircuts. This is how we can learn from various places in the poskim. Now, if that is true, then definitely when you have all these leniencies, Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh Iyar, that falls together, and a person that feels tsar, it's hard for him to keep the beard. It is hard for many reasons. It's itchy, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't look good. People also go around other people, they want to look presentable. If a person feels that he wants to shave, definitely he has what to rely on, and he could shave for the honor of Shabbat and for the honor of Rosh Chodesh. Just one might ask, how could you shave on Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh is Friday. How could you shave on Rosh Chodesh? There's Tzavaat of Yehuda Hasid that says that one should not shave on Rosh Chodesh and should not take haircuts on Rosh Chodesh. So you need to know that what Moshe Feinstein writes, that it doesn't apply here because since you weren't allowed to shave beforehand, therefore this is your chance, and therefore that would be permitted. Moreover, the Chida rejects and he says that in their places they were not noheg in this Rav Yehuda Hasid at all. You see the proof that the Radbaz brings down that you could shave on Rosh Chodesh, and he shaved on Rosh Chodesh, and he took a haircut on Rosh Chodesh, and others as well. So he says it doesn't apply. So even those that are strict about it, more those that follow the Mishnah Berurah and the Ashkenazim, and even the Sfaradim that want to keep that Rav Yehuda Hasid, but here on the time that you couldn't take a haircut before, this is your chance. The Ramosha says that it is permitted. Moreover, it's brought down in the poskim that when do we say that idea that one may not shave on Rosh Chodesh, says the Bet Ephraim, that is only when it's one Rosh Chodesh, or when it's two Rosh Chodesh, but on the second day of Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because that is really the new day of the month. But when you have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, on the first day of Rosh Chodesh is not considered really Rosh Chodesh, because it's the 30th day of the previous month in reality, and therefore on that day it is permitted, and on that of Yehuda Hasid wasn't speaking at all. And therefore comes out halacha lemaseh that one that wants to shave, even a haircut, but shaving even much more so. Ashkenazim could take a haircut. Sfaradim, those that want to shave definitely are permitted. Those that want to even take a haircut have much what to rely upon.